Hello guys, welcome to today's video on IIM Kozhikode series. So today we are going to be dealing with paragraph questions, para summaries, para completions, those kinds of models we are going to see in the verbal ability section. Okay, let's see some of the models. Okay, what is para summary question? A para summary question, it just asks you to identify the best short version of a paragraph among the four options that are given. Essentially something that captures the central idea and also supports the key points. Okay, you're just looking for the essence of the paragraph in the given four options. Complete paragraph is given, then four options are given. You should just, all of them do look like the summary of the passage, but you have to look for the central idea and also the essence. Okay, let's just try some, then we'll know. How can you approach this is read the paragraph carefully, don't skim. Many of you do this mistake while it comes to it. Even though it's lengthy, in order to choose the right option, you can't skim these passages. When you want to specifically mark the summary, you have to understand the style, tone, and objective of that particular paragraph. Identify the main idea. Usually in the first or last line, you can decipher that. Note supporting arguments and examples. Yeah. But don't stop there. And you can eliminate the options that omit the core idea, add extra info that's not in the passage, something that are too narrow or too broad, and sometimes some of the options use extreme language. You can just ask this, does the summary say what the paragraph says? No more, no less. This is important. Okay, of course you will be looking for the summary, but nothing more, nothing less. That is what we want to have. Okay, chalo. You can avoid things which are too specific or things which are too general, something that's biased or something that includes some information that is not in the passage. Okay, let's see this model question first. The idea that economic growth directly translates into social progress is increasingly being challenged. Okay, so we have economic growth and social progress that is being challenged. Fine. While GDP growth may lead to a rise in average incomes, it often overlooks the widening gap between the rich and the poor. Furthermore, issues like environmental degradation, poor public health infrastructure, and lack of educational opportunities persist in many high-growth economies. A nation may boast strong macroeconomic indicators while failing to deliver meaningful improvements in quality of life for large sections of the population. Okay, hence policymakers are now focusing on more holistic development indicators such as the Human Development Index and gross national happiness to gauge progress more accurately. Okay, so instead of GDP, we are trying to go for Human Development Index and GNH, gross national happiness. So the main idea here is economic growth and social progress aren't the same things. They are being challenged. And instead of GDP, we are trying to go for such indices which include the happiness and development factors. Okay, let's see the options for this passage. Okay, let's look at option A. Economic growth has always been the best way to ensure people are happy and healthy. This is definitely not what the passage is saying. It's exactly opposite of what the passage is saying, right? So this is wrong. The Human Development Index and gross national happiness are better than GDP at growing economies. Okay, see, I think till this line are better than GDP, okay, but at growing economies, no. It has not been specifically mentioned about developed countries and developing countries, growing economy, already the economies which grew. It's not mentioned about that. Okay, this does seem a bit near to that. Let's see other options too. High GDP often reduces inequality, but HDI helps in calculating education outcomes more accurately. See, this kind of information is not at all given in the passage, right? GDP reduces inequality or HDI helps in education tracking. No, this is not at all mentioned. Okay, let's look at B also. Despite high economic growth, many countries face inequality and poor living conditions. So broader indicators like HDI are becoming considered. This is what exactly the passage is trying to say. Even though C also looks like it's close to the correct option, the discussion about growing economies or developed economies, it's not there in the passage. So the more appropriate and the more closer one would be option B. Okay, let's look at next question. Yeah, Contrast between GDP introduces, right? C is too vague and misleading. It wrongly implies HDI grows economies, right? Let's look at this passage. The modern consumer is overwhelmed with choices, whether it's in choosing a smartphone, a streaming service, or even a toothpaste brand. While having options is generally perceived as a sign of freedom and empowerment, studies in behavioral psychology reveal that excessive choices can lead to decision fatigue. Okay, this is the main point we can see here. Excessive choices can lead to decision fatigue, anxiety, and dissatisfaction. Wow, okay. When presented with too many alternatives, individuals often struggle to make a confident decisions, fearing that they might be missing out on a better option. This paradox of choice can result in either impulsive decisions or complete decision paralysis. Okay. Therefore, some experts recommend limiting choices to reduce stress and improve satisfaction with the decisions made. So, even having too many options, instead of being empowering, it can be very energy draining. That is what the passage is trying to convey. Okay, let's look at the options. See, first try to understand the main idea. Try to understand the essence of that passage, then it becomes easy for you. Okay, consumers today enjoy more freedom due to multiple product options. That is what he's trying to say, that the exact opposite that he's trying to say, like too many products lead to dissatisfaction, too many choices are giving us fatigue. Okay, behavioral psychology shows that people are more likely to make perfect choices when options increase. The exact opposite again, right? Let's see B and C. People should avoid buying things like phones or toothpaste because it's too confusing. Is that what the passage is trying to say? That just, okay, don't buy things, then you will be free. Alright, let's look at option B. Too many choices can overwhelm consumers, making decision making harder and less satisfactory. That is what the passage is trying to say. This is the most appropriate summary present here. This is pretty easy actually. Yeah, you can see. Right. Chalo, let's look at next passage. Okay. As artificial intelligence continues to advance, many fear it may soon replace a significant portion of the human workforce. However, experts argue that while AI will automate some routine and repetitive tasks, it is also likely to create new kinds of jobs, particularly those requiring emotional intelligence, creativity, and complex decision making. Historical patterns from previous industrial revolutions suggest that technological disruptions initially displace certain job categories but eventually lead to the emergence of entirely new industries. Okay, so people are afraid that AI will steal their jobs, but history says something else. That is what the passage is trying to say, right? Initially displaced, but lead to emergence of entirely new industries. Okay, the key challenge for policymakers then is to ensure that the workforce is trained and adaptable enough to transition into these new roles and not be left behind by technological change. Yeah. So this is what the passage is about. Don't worry, even though AI comes, there will be new jobs. The policymakers should also be ready for that and train the workforce accordingly. That is the main essence. Okay, let's see the summary of the passage. AI will cause widespread job loss and humans should be wary of its growth. Is that what is being discussed in the passage? Yeah, it's being said that AI might, steal some jobs, but also we'll have some other new industries coming into the picture. That is not being discussed in option A. Only some part is being discussed. Next, technological revolutions always cause employment and there is nothing we can do about it. No, he's saying that new industries will come. So this is not the option. AI should be banned to protect human labor and preserve job security. No, nothing about banning is being, said in the passage. Let's look at option B. Although AI will replace some jobs, it will also create new ones, making workforce adaptability essential, right? This was said in the last line. Yes, this is the most appropriate summary of the passage. Right? Let's look at next passage. Fast fashion. Clothing produced quickly and cheaply to reflect current trends has transformed the apparel industry, making clothes more affordable and accessible. However, this convenience comes at a significant environmental cost. The industry is one of the largest contributors to water pollution, okay, and textile waste. Its supply chains often rely on unethical labor practices. As consumers buy more and discard clothes faster, landfills overflow with non biodegradable waste. Environmental activists and policymakers are advocating for slow fashion, a movement that encourages mindful buying, higher quality production, and sustainability. But changing consumer behavior remains a significant hurdle. Okay, so if you buy more clothes and if you just throw them away very fast, that leads to environmental damage. That is what the essence is. Okay, let's look at the options here. Fast fashion is popular because it's trendy and affordable. No, nothing about affordability or trendy is being discussed here. Water pollution is the main issue caused by fast fashion and it should be taxed heavily. Yes, water pollution is being discussed, but nothing about taxation is being discussed in the passage. No taxation thing is being discussed in the passage. So it only partially fulfills the duty here. Fashion companies should only produce expensive clothes to reduce waste. No, nothing like this. Maybe this is an indirect solution. We don't know. Maybe something that you can decipher, but that is not what is being discussed in the passage. Fast fashion has negative environmental and ethical consequences, promoting a shift towards sustainable alternatives like slow fashion. Yeah, so that is what is being said. Okay, it has negative impact on environment. So what we want to do is shift to a sustainable alternative like slow fashion. Okay, so option B is your appropriate summary for this, right? Yeah, this is the full argument. Okay. So now we have looked at para summary questions, right? Now let's look at para completion questions. So what's the difference? Para summary is the full passage is given and we have to summarize that. So for that we are looking at options. But when it comes to para completion, you are looking for the last line. Okay, the last line is missing and you wanna check that among the 4 options given. Right? A para completion question is it asks you to choose the most appropriate sentence that logically and cohesively completes a paragraph. Okay, it should be contextually appropriate. There should be logical flow. Right? There are some common patterns if you observe. For example, the cause and effect completion. Final sentence explains or results from the earlier ideas. Then we have contrast completions, shows a twist or unexpected ending. And then we have restatement or summary completion, repeats or wraps, like hence this is proved, hence we can so and so, like that. Okay, future implications, predicts consequences or next steps. Action recommendations suggest a solution or call to action. Okay, so these are like the common patterns that you can observe when it comes to para completion. So let's look at the strategy now. Read the whole passage completely. Okay, see, for para summaries and para completions, you have to read it. You should understand the tone, the purpose, the structure, how is it going. You should grasp the main idea and the flow of thought here. And then you can look for connectors or pronouns or logical clues in the given options. What do you do for elimination? You just don't choose the off-topic endings. For example, some new idea is being introduced in one of the options. No, that doesn't happen, because when you wrap a passage, what do? You just try to stick to what is already discussed in the lines above, right? Ideas not hinted in the passage sentences that disturb the tone or logic. Okay. Okay. Something that's too specific or too vague, that can be avoided. Something new or unrelated topics, if they are being used, that can be avoided. Sentences with tense or subject mismatches. So this is something which you don't use generally, but even this can be used to eliminate options. Endings that repeat previous sentences without adding value. Okay, sometimes. See, concluding is different, summarizing is different. This is like, almost same sentence, but having some different words. Okay. Okay. Let's look at first passage. In today's digital marketplace, personalization has become a cornerstone of customer experience. Companies collect vast volumes of consumer data, from browsing history to past purchases to tailor-made recommendations, email campaigns, and advertisement to individual preferences. While this hyper-targeted approach can improve engagement and conversation rates, it also raises important ethical concerns. Many consumers are unaware of how extensively their data is tracked, and some are beginning to question whether the convenience offered by the personalization is worth the loss of privacy and autonomy. Okay, here we can see that data which is taken from us is being used by others. So the idea is whether this personalization is worth the loss of privacy and autonomy. Let's check the options. Okay. Which of the following best completes the passage? Okay, let's look at options. Consumers may soon stop using digital platforms that don't offer personalized services. Is that what is being discussed? Are we really saying that they might soon stop this because they don't offer? They are offering, right? They are offering, we are losing our data. If they stop, it would be because of the loss of privacy, not because of no personalization features, right? That would not happen. Personalized advertising is more effective than traditional banner ads. No, this is not being discussed in the passage at all. Right? Personalized advertising is more effective. No. Companies often outsource marketing to third-party platforms like Instagram and YouTube. Okay, but here we are not looking at the privacy issue. Okay, that's how the penultimate line is ending, right? We should look for the ultimate line now. Okay, let's look at option A. This tension between personalization and privacy is promoting businesses to rethink their data practices and become more transparent. Yeah, this is the logical flow. Here they are discussing about personalization and privacy, which is already discussed in the penultimate line. This is the ultimate line. Okay. Yeah, you can just have a look at this explanation. Okay. Let's look at the next passage. Okay. Urban areas across the globe are grappling with worsening air pollution, which has been linked to a rise in respiratory illnesses, cardiovascular diseases, and even cognitive decline. As industrial emissions, vehicular exhaust, and construction dust accumulate in densely populated cities, governments are under pressure to implement urgent solutions. While short-term measures like road rationing and construction bans provide temporary relief, environmental experts argue that the problem is systemic. They emphasize the need for sustainable urban planning, stricter emission controls, and green transportation systems as long-term solutions to this public health crisis. So, we are discussing about public health crisis, that too specifically in urban areas, and because of all the pollution emissions that have been mentioned here. Okay, let's look at the options given. Okay. As a result, okay, let's look at the passages. As a result, citizens are increasingly relying on personal air purifiers and masks. Okay, in the last line, we have seen that there should be some long-term policies, right? Okay, let's just keep it in the view. Okay, temporary solutions are more efficient than long-term policies in reducing pollution. No, that doesn't come because no such discussion happened. Yes, temporary measures have been discussed, long-term measures have been discussed, but nothing is leading to the conclusion saying temporary solutions are more effective. Okay. Cities with the worst air quality are usually located near oceans or rivers. No, this is completely unrelated to passage, right? Let's look at option C. Therefore, tackling air pollution must become a core part of urban development strategies worldwide. Yeah, this would become the answer because in the penultimate line, he's discussing about the policy planning, how the government should move forward. Here, it's discussing about as a result, citizens are increasingly relying on personal planning. No, this is ending with citizens' action. But the penultimate line, as it talks about the policy reforms, we should be concentrating on option C, which is talking about the strategies, urban planning, which is a government's duty. Okay, so this is much more closer than option A. Let's see. Option C logically reinforces systematic and long-term solution. Highlights side effect but misses the policy emphasis. Yeah, just like we have discussed. Contradicts the passage central idea. Option D introduces a random unsupported geographical claim. Okay? Okay. Let's see next passage. Humans like to think of themselves as rational decision makers, but research in behavioral economics has consistently shown that this is not often the case. From default settings, influencing retirement savings to framing effects altering medical choices, people tend to rely on mental shortcuts known as heuristics. Okay, we are discussing about mental shortcuts here. These cognitive biases help in quick decision making but often lead to systematic errors in judgment. For instance, the availability of heuristic causes individuals to overestimate the likelihood of events that are recent or dramatic, like plane crashes, while ignoring more probable risks like car accidents or lifestyle changes. Okay, so this says that when we use this particular style, what happens is they tend to overestimate the likelihood of the events that are very recent. For example, if you heard about a plane crash in news 2 days ago, and if you have a flight and the next week, you worry about that because you think it might happen again. But if you look at the statistics, that's not a probable event, right? So that is what he's trying to convey in this passage. Okay, let's look what would be the last line. Therefore, decision making is best left to machines and AI models. Okay, this comes with a complete new set of words, machines and AI models. No, this proves that all decisions based on emotion are inherently flawed. Okay, we do have a new heuristics thing here, but nothing about emotion is being discussed in the passage, right? So this is not the thing. People should completely avoid using heuristics when making. He's saying that we use heuristics. That's how our brain functions. We can't just say that so people should not use heuristics. That can't happen, right? Understanding these biases is crucial for designing policies and systems that help people make better, more informed choices. Yeah. So what we have to do is we have to understand this bias. Okay, because I have seen this recent plane crash, I am tensed about it, but there is nothing to worry. I should focus on statistics or the things like statistics which show the actual true informed choice. So like that, you have to think, you have to understand these biases which happen within your mind. You can't just say, okay, let's avoid heuristics. You can't do that, right? It's how your brain is designed. Okay, let's look at the explanations. B logically follows human error and links to solution oriented action. A is extreme and not supported. Yeah. C is unrealistic because the paragraph doesn't suggest avoid heuristics entirely. You can't do that. D misrepresents the point. Biases are not necessarily emotional. Emotional decisions are not always flawed. We don't know about that, about emotional decision making, right? Let's look at one last para here. Online learning platforms have transformed access to education by removing geographic and financial barriers. Learners can now take courses from top universities and gain certifications without ever stepping into a traditional classroom. However, this rapid digital expansion has not been without its drawbacks. Many students report difficulties staying motivated, feelings of isolation and lack of immediate support when facing conceptual challenges. Additionally, the digital divide continues to affect low-income and rural populations, limiting their ability to benefit from these resources. Okay, here we are talking about the digital divide, right? Financial barriers. Sorry. We are talking about how even the digital classrooms are having its drawbacks. Like when they're conceptually challenged, it's difficult to stay motivated. There is a feeling of isolation, right? There is no immediate support, and even the low income and the rural populations can't afford these kinds of benefits from digital learning, right? So that is what is being discussed in the passage. Let's look at the options. Oh, sorry guys. Okay, let's just continue anyway. Therefore, incorporating personalized feedback and blended learning models may help bridge the gap between convenience and engagement. Yeah, this seems very appropriate. Let's look at the other options too. More people are applying to online courses than ever before in history. No, this is not the concluding passage. It's again following upon what is being said earlier in the passage. Mobile learning apps are now available in multiple languages. This is completely not related. Traditional education will soon become irrelevant. See, option B, C, D, they're like too extreme. See, B is factual but doesn't address the problem. C is too specific. D is an overstatement and contradicts the nuance. So A is something which rightly summarizes the passage. Okay, it discusses about the concerns of engagement, inequality, and also proposes a balanced solution. Whenever a problem is being discussed, generally in the last line, we discuss about the solution that can be offered there, right? So we have seen this in the types of para completions, right? Okay. Yeah, just focus on logical connectors, track the tone. Okay, don't let an attractive sentence trick you, and you can practice with RC passages to have this flow recognition. Okay, when you want to practice this. Okay, so thanks for watching the video, guys. I hope you are revising these things. Okay, keep following the series. Okay, let's meet you in the next video. Thank you.